Hello and a very happy Halloween to all. Welcome to the Spirit of Abundance virtual retreat. And today, for our first retreat session, I am really genuinely excited, blessed and honoured. And because we've been having a chat before I press record, I'm really excited because I've got a great session for you today. They're all great sessions, of course, but today, as we're opening up Halloween, this is a really, really special one, which very much speaks into the spirit of abundance and is going to give you some incredible information, but also some clear steps of how you can unleash and unlock your spirit of abundance. And the teacher who is joining me today is the incredible Richard Rudd, who is absolutely one of my all-time favorite master teachers. I came across Richard's work, must be about 4 years ago now, something like that, as I was going through my transition, leaving my soul-sucking 9-to-5, transitioning into my higher purpose. And what better information, teacher and wisdom, quite frankly, to connect with than the Gene Keys, which is Richard Rudd's creation. It's his life's work. He's just an incredible illuminator of who you are at your core, and gives you a clear path in his Gene Keys work of how you can align with that and how you can activate your highest potential. And we're going to be sharing on the screen actually with you today, step by step, what your profile will look like. Richard's going to use mine as an example, which I'm ecstatic about. How lucky am I to have a reading here with Richard? But it's also going to be a reflection to you as well about how, you know, what your profile looks like, what the different areas mean, and how you can come into alignment fast, or as fast as your soul will take you, let's put it, so that you can unlock your spirit of abundance. So Richard Rudd, thank you so much for being here and for joining me today.
Thank you, Aria. It's lovely to be here. And it's been such joy getting to know you over these last couple of years. And it's also nice that we kind of live down the road from each other, which helps a great deal.
Yeah, absolutely. We're about an hour and a half down the road. So some might say, why aren't we? Maybe we will do it in the future where we actually get together in the physical. But I think this is the third time that I'm now interviewing you, or we're broadcasting in this type of space, and which is an honor. And we've met up a couple of times as well. And yeah, it's you and your work have genuinely been a huge catalyst and huge support in my life, and I know for many people's around the globe. So thank you, and thank you for agreeing to be on this retreat. And I know the audience are really gonna love what you have to share today. Where should we start, Richard? Would you like to? Should we go straight in, or do you want to give a little bit of an intro first?
I think we could just dive in, actually, because then we won't waste any time.
Okay, awesome.
And I can talk through as we go into the matrix.
Okay, great. So I'm all for the red pill, and let's go into the matrix, and I'm going to share my screen.
So this is genekeys.com.
So yeah, genekeys.com. So this is your website. So this is about how people, and we're going to use my profile as an example. But so you just go to your website, there's this gray button up here, free profile. So we'll click on that. Yeah.
So what you're doing now is you're going to create your profile, and a Gene Keys profile is something quite unique. It's a little bit unusual. It's created from, like astrology, from the time, place, date of your birth. And so what it does is it kind of locates you in the space-time continuum and in the kind of the sort of holographic matrix of space and time. And then it works out, the computer calculates from, so many millions of potential coordinates. This is a system that uses the I Ching combined with astrology, combined with many other systems as well. It's a synthesis. And so what you end up with is you can begin with this profile, this kind of unique profile. So if you click create my profile, then it generates it. I call it the hologenetic profile. And gene keys are about mapping what's hidden inside us, in our DNA. And the I Ching has this correspondence mathematically to DNA. I mean, really perfect overlay. So that's why it's called gene keys. So when you're looking at these things, what you're really doing is you're unlocking sequences in your DNA that are hidden and unique to you, and they involve a process of awakening. And the way I've understood this process and laid it out, it's very simple in these 3 levels. The first sequence unlocks genius, the second unlocks love, and the third unlocks prosperity. And they unlock in that order. And there's no kind of getting around that order, because genius is about our purpose, and as you can see there, your deepest, for you, deepest purpose in life is to manifest the gift of freshness and to realize your purpose, to transform the shadow of entropy. I'll talk about these terms in a moment. And so but each of these terms are taken from one of 64 codes, which are called the gene keys. There's 64 of them. And my big book that I've written called Gene Keys, it goes through all the codes in detail, and the codes are divided up into shadow, gift, and siddhi. So you have a combination of these codes, and these are the words you're looking at. They're in bold there. So freshness, the gift of freshness, is coming from the second gene key, which is a position of where the sun was when you were born. And so that sun represents your kind of your life, your genius, your life's work. And then opposite that, freshness comes from the earth, the position of the earth in relationship to the sun, which is why it's to do with grounding your life's purpose in the body, right, which is what we call genius. So the journey through the gene keys is then unpicking what these words mean, and then we go through on this transformational journey from the shadow into the gift, and then finally the gift flowers into the siddhi. And a siddhi is a Sanskrit word that I used that relates to the kind of highest potential manifestation of your consciousness, of your form, right? So you have shadow, gift, siddhi, and then you have these 64 gene keys through that spectrum. And then, so basically it's a kind of linguistic matrix that you then go on a journey to understand. And then you unlock that journey in your life. You don't do this, there's some study and there's a lot of contemplation involved, but essentially the transformation takes place in your life, as you know, Ariella. Mm-hmm. So as you start to kind of understand, for instance, the shadow of entropy is like, is the loss of energy. It's tiredness, it's exhaustion. It's, we know some of your story of where you exhausted yourself through doing something that wasn't fully aligned with your true purpose, right?
Yeah, when I was in corporates, all of that stuff. And I know also entropy is, you talk in your book, which was incredible when I read about entropy. And this is what's amazing when you read up about these different gates or spheres in Richard's book, the gene keys themselves. You learn so much about your life's journey, because I remember it saying about entropy and how it can freeze you into a place of, if you don't know what's going on, because it's a creative process, you can get depressed. And when I was younger, I used to have lots of times of where I would just go into this deep depression, and learning about, this creative process was huge.
Exactly. And that's what the gene keys show you. They show you these specific kind of frequencies that relate to aspects of our suffering. So especially the shadows. So that as you said, the shadow of entropy, that particular one really does relate to depression, getting stuck in those kind of holes. Mm-hmm. And each one has a different kind of aspect that it manifests in a different way in our life, in our chemistry. So we're really looking at something that when you take your journey, you begin to recognize. And then, so for example, the gift that comes out of entropy can be the gift of freshness, and the gift of freshness is about always finding something new in every day, and always finding something new in every moment, and never repeating the same thing in the same way again, ever. So if you can imagine someone living their life like that, then you have someone who's unlocked the potential of that entropy, and that potential energy has been released through your body, through your life, and you begin to create, and then the entropy is left behind, because you start to create, and you create, ultimately you're creating beautiful things, or uplifting things, or inspiring things that are both beautiful for you and wonderful for others.
I can't stop creating.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm creating too much.
So there you are. It's your genius. So that's an example.
Yeah.
So this is a little snapshot you get at the beginning of the profile, and then it shows you the second sequence underneath there where it says love, which is called the Venus sequence. And these are 3 big journeys. So and this is a snapshot of the Venus sequence, which is called Venus sequence because it's about positions of planets, Mars and Venus, and Moon, and some other planets as well, but particularly Mars and Venus, and how they imprint us with the codes of, the codes that condition our relationships, right? And so they show us what's kind of hidden in our relationship patterns, and they really show us directly what the big challenges are. So in yours, my greatest challenge is to transform the shadow of forgetting into the gift of mindfulness. And then the highest expression of my heart, that's one of the siddhis. That's G key 3530, the boundlessness. Boundlessness. So again, these are just words, but as you start to kind of go into the gene keys and understand the sequences, the words come alive in your life, because you realize, what the shadow of forgetting really means. Forgetting myself, forgetting myself in relationships, forgetting me, getting involved in someone else and their stuff and their story and their journey, and just getting lost in it. And that's forgetting what's important, forgetting your way, forgetting that it's about love. It was meant to be about love. What happened? Why has it gone in this direction? And the gift of mindfulness is like where you begin to suddenly become aware of the forgetting. You become aware of the shadow that you've been creating in your relationships. And as you become aware of it, then that mindfulness starts to kind of appear. And it's really becomes also heartfulness, because your heart starts to come back alive again. And then ultimately, the highest expression of your heart, Mariella, is boundlessness, And you could kind of, I don't know, I mean, anyone that knows you even a little bit, you just got to look at you and hear your enthusiasm to get that that's who you are, that boundless being of, eternal child of the light. That's definitely who you are. And so this really goes into, the Venus sequence takes in some very deep territory. And in a way, what's important about it is that it clears the way in your relationships. So the first sequence, which is called the activation sequence, with the one about genius, it kind of grounds you in your purpose, in your body. So it gives you a grounding. And this is essential for prosperity. Like, in order for prosperity to bloom in someone, you've got to have that grounding first. If you don't have that grounding, even if you are very successful, you'll still be miserable, So you've got to have that grounding in a higher sense of purpose. And then the second one is the Venus sequence of love. It's like, unless your relationships have been kind of addressed, and that includes your past relationships, includes your current relationships, unless you're really there beginning to thrive, prosperity will always be elusive for you, because it flows from our relationships. We know this. It flows out of, like, any success in the world flows because of clear, lucky relating, because we draw in people who kind of fire us off in different directions. So good true. Fortune.
Is it about external relationships and also the relationship with the self, or is it mostly external?
Absolutely. No, it's all entirely relationship with the self. because that's actually the only relationship there is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like every person you're with, you're having a relationship with yourself, but you've just projected them outside you. So you're actually, whatever they're throwing at you, whatever they're bringing to you, it's showing you. That's why everyone says, oh, relationships are a mirror, you know, that cliche. And it's true.
Yeah.
But at the level that most of us are not aware of, at the depth, that that person really is a reflection of you. And not just they are, but they've come to you specifically to give you the opportunity to show you a part of yourself that needs healing.
Mm.
So they bring the very thing that you really don't want to deal with.
Mm.
And when you decide to deal with it, then you graduate, then the heart opens, then those kind of patterns or even those kind of people leave you alone, you know, or they change, they themselves transform, you know. So the Venus sequence describes that whole process of kind of finding our relationship with our own heart. And that involves going back into our childhood in some way, you know, because you have to understand the patterns of shutdown that we each had in our childhood. And the Venus sequence shows us that. It's a very tender kind of map. You know that from your own process. I mean, you might like to say something about your understanding of it. I'd be interested to know.
Yeah. So yes. So the Venus sequence is very, very deep. It's very profound. And I think it's, in my experience, it illuminated a lot, of course. And I think in some ways, it's the bit that we want to skip over. Like there's a part of us that's like, okay, yeah, no, I want to know what my purpose is, and I want to know how to unlock my prosperity. But you know, that other stuff, that, you know, that can feel a bit heavy.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, isn't it, that prosperity is, or you know, people, they want that,
yeah,
but they don't want to do the homework necessary to get it.
Yeah,
totally.
you know,
because it, as you know, what Gene Keys shows us is that it's a sequence, you know. And as I said, there's a difference between wealth and prosperity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I define that difference. Like wealth is a kind of accumulation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you accumulate stuff, money. Mm-hmm. You know, but you don't, because you're not rooted in your higher purpose, you don't know how to spend it. Mm-hmm. You know, you really don't. So what you do is you accumulate more stuff and more experiences maybe, but actually you don't accumulate happiness. You know? Mm-hmm. And I mean, show me a very rich, happy person. I've moved, I don't know, I've never met one. I mean, there might be one or two. I mean, truly fulfilled. Mm-hmm. Because prosperity is a flow. Prosperity is a flow. So as soon as it comes in, you want to give it out again. That's why it comes from the heart. That's why it's the love. As soon as you've got it, you want to spend it. You want to spend it on someone else or on some higher purpose. Mm-hmm. And that's its only reason for generating it, is so you can share it and give it. There's no other reason. You know, that's prosperity. Yeah. So that's what I'm interested in. And you know, it's important, I think, for people watching this to ask themselves the right question. Because the question is, you know, the wrong question to me is, how can I be wealthy? How can I be more wealthy? Because I want to do this. The right question is, how can, you know, let's say it like this, what is the highest service I can offer to humanity and the world? Mm-hmm. That is the question. Mm-hmm. If you can ask that question and you can answer it in your life, you'll get prosperity. You know, if you answer the other one, you can go to a million people who'll tell you how to be wealthy. I mean, you know, they're everywhere. Here's how to get wealthy in 10 steps, you know, in 25 minutes. You know, here's a book. Here's a, you know, it's not even that hard nowadays. But it won't lead to the thing that you're really looking for. That's what prosperity does. That's why Gene Keys shows you this map in a very visual way. This is where prosperity lies. It's the kind of, it's at the end of the rainbow, just as it always has been in our myths. You know, the treasure is at the end of the rainbow. You got to go on this journey And the journey's wonderful because the you know, as you unlock the heart, the stuff starts coming in. It's not like it comes at the end, it comes in from the beginning. You know, so but it trickles in at the beginning, and then it starts to come in, flow in, and then it's sort of, you know, floods in. And you know, because that's what prosperity is. It's the flood of resources so that you can fulfill your dharma or your high purpose. So anyway, shall we get to the pearl? Because so just touching those keynotes for you: restraint, prosperity through restraint. Interesting, you know, like who would think restraint? Undermine my prosperity through the shadow of stress, and I thrive best as an entrepreneur. Right? Those are key. We can come back to those keynotes, but if we go down the page, now you go. There's some paragraphs that describe your genius, but specific to you, but you don't need to touch them for the moment. There's also, by the way, at the top of this page, you get a free audio by me on the gene key connected to your life's work. It's like a 25-minute audio where I just talk through that gene key that relates to you. And that's just sitting on the top. So if you go down a bit lower, a bit deeper, this is what is called your full profile. And so this is like, there are numbers in there that relate to the gene keys. And it's a little bit complicated, it looks, but actually we're going to go on a little journey into this. So first of all, go across to the right, Ariella, and switch on the little button that says lines.
Okay.
Now, if you're a newcomer to this, you don't need to do this. I'm doing this because I'm doing a journey with Ariella, and I'm going to talk us through it so that we get a peek, a preview. If you go down a bit further, okay, there, and slide that slider across to activation. Yeah, there we go. Then this is where we begin the journey. So this is, I'm not going to talk through these gene keys because I want to go to the pearl, which is the one about prosperity, and I want to give some insights into abundance and prosperity. But I want to just show you, like, these are the 4 gene keys that relate to your, you know, the one that we touched on with entropy. Actually, it does say there freshness. You can see at the bottom. But there's these different sliders on the right that you can switch on and off. So you can switch on and off the term, so you can get an idea. You could just switch on the siddhi there and the shadow, and you'll get the additional words. Right. See there: beauty, freshness, entropy, empathy, discernment, discord. So there's a story in each one of these, and there's a sequence through which it's unlocked that leads to this unlocking of our genius through our purpose. So if you go down and move the slider along, the next thing, Venus, that's the Venus sequence. Again, this is the journey, as I explained, through the wounding patterns of our childhood. And now I know this to people looks like, wow, this is so complicated. It is rich, is what it is. You know, Gene Keys is a rich journey that you take in steps. So I'm showing you the whole journey. This is called the Golden Path. And I've laid this whole path out in a program, 3 parts, you know, activation, Venus, Pearl. And you can do one at a time, and they consist of steps. And you just go one sphere at a time, one of these spheres. And once you've understood the lessons of that sphere that relate to you, you've read the text, you've watched the videos, you move to the next step. And then you do the next one, and you do the next one, and you unravel it in your own timing at your own pace. And there are audios, there are stuff to watch, there's books. It's
incredible.
There's a lot of stuff, but it leads you by the hand through the whole process. And your job is to bring it alive in your life. And that's the exciting part. So if you slide it along all the way to the pearl, we're going to the end, because that's what this is about. We're going to look at the harvest of your life and what does it look like. This is called the pearl sequence. And everyone has hidden inside them this secret little sequence, you know, and it's, as I said, it's hidden inside our DNA. So it's like, it's a series of kind of pathways of awakening that we have to unlock. And as we unlock them, then prosperity starts to flow towards us. So as we looked at, your first one was forgetting, right? And I'm also going to show, if you look, it's quite small. And I don't know if you can focus in a bit or zoom it, but
There we go.
That's great. So it says there, where you see 33 line 4, vocation, your vocation, this is where the sequence begins. It's basically got 4 spheres: vocation, culture, brand, and then the one in the middle is called the pearl. Right? It's like a game, really, this, it's like a video game of our lives. So you begin with vocation. And vocation is, what are you here to do? What is your highest, expression through your vocation? And we looked at, like, okay, this is the 33rd gene key. This is about mindfulness, but it's also about revelation. That's the siddhi. That's the highest aspect, revelation. And you can see that underneath that says line 4, sales, right? And I like to play with language, and I like to, and the gene keys is full of like interesting
Amazing
twists on language.
Yeah.
And in the Pearl sequence, I play with kind of some of the language of business, but I open it up in a very archetypal, beautiful way, I think. Yes. So sales, there's 6 possible lines. So even just put the gene key aside for a moment and just look at the line. You're a line 4. Line 4 is sales. And line 1, for instance, I'm line 1, is production. It's just like the production line. Line 2 is marketing. That's the window dressing. Line 3 is strategy. That's knowing how and when to do it. Line 4 is pure sales. It's like, okay, I've got to sell this product. And then line 5 is management, how you kind of work with people. And line 6 is called philanthropy. It's like, what's the long-term view? How do we serve the whole through this product? And of course, you are the product. So a 4th line person is a absolutely wonderful, natural salesperson. And I don't mean just sort of sales in terms of you have to go and work in sales. I mean, like, you just have an affable, likable kind of style, sociable, friend-making style in whatever you do. And even if you're in management, you can still have a line 4, or if you work for yourself, or if you're anything. You don't even have to have a job. You could be a mother at home doing, looking after kids. Anything. Like, if you're a line 4, you have a way of touching other people that will always kind of get their interest. That's a line 4. Because the line 4 speaks from its heart, through its feelings, through connecting and bridging with others. So we know that for Ariella, your primary vocation is connecting with human beings, heart to heart, which I think is what you do really well, because it just comes across as part of who you are. So you could sell anything, literally. And even if you weren't selling anything, you'd still be selling. You'd be selling yourself. You'd be selling life. You'd be selling joy. You'd be, I mean, if you look at it even negative, you could be selling, misery. You could be selling stress. You could be selling, but whatever it is, you do a good job of selling it.
Good promoter.
Yeah.
Good at promoting.
Yeah. So look, you have to ask yourself, well, what is it am I here to sell? So for you, it's revelation. It's like, I'm here to sell. I'm here to kind of reveal secrets to the masses, to people who are ready for them.
It's so like unbelievably accurate, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah, with these systems, I love these systems. Right?
I know it's very accurate. And then if you go across the next one, these pathways have name. You might as well just switch the switch on the right that gives the names of the pathways.
Okay.
Just right, perfect. Oh, wow. So the first pathway is called pathway of initiative, and it's interesting because what it suggests is we need to take the initiative in order for growth to occur. Because the next pathway, going from culture to brand, is called growth, and then the final pathway is called service. And when you complete that loop, you actually generate true prosperity. So you initiate, and then it grows, and then that growth is put back into the system. If it is put back into the system, it then regenerates like this flowering process at the core of life. So this is a map of life and how life flowers and prospers, and for anyone. But you've got to put the specific codes of each person in to decipher it.
Mm-hmm.
So if we go, if you put the lines back in, that's cool. So, and put also the gift and the gift on, that's it. So if we go down to culture and we look at, okay, culture is really interesting because the sphere of culture shows us if you look at the lines, 6 lines, 6 possible lines of how we will grow I call it our fractal, it's our kind of a support network, right? So that we will prosper, because you can't prosper in isolation, right? So line 1 is the foundation, is the individual. And this is where you get that entrepreneur from. I'm also line 1, by the way, entrepreneurs, the 2 of us.
I saw that. You're a 1 in vocation and a 1 in culture, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. And so, those ones are very like anchors. And so they begin things and then things crystallize around them. Like if you were a line 2, you'd have partnership, and you would begin with a partnership, so it doesn't mean you won't do it on your own, but because obviously everything begins with one person. But a line 2 is like, that's a person who generates prosperity through partnership. Either it might be their husband, their wife, might be their dog, might be a group of partnerships, might be a business partnership, might be many partnerships. But it's the kind of energy, vitality is in the partnership, right? So line 1s can have partnerships, but they are the source of the idea, of the creative idea. And then you have line 3s, which is the unit. Line 3s work really well in small teams, like really. That's their kind of home, is to kind of move energy through teams, like small groups, teams, families. That's where their prosperity is generated from. Line 4 is called network. Those are network people that have like their gift is making connections, and so for them, prosperity travels through those connections, through a network, or it could be many networks. And it could be an online network, can be home network, can be like friends everywhere, but their opportunities will arise through their network. Line 5 is society. Line 5 are leader people. So they are people that are, they are here to they will take responsibility, and they're here to have a global impact, right? So it gets like from the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it gets wider and wider and wider and wider. And line 6 is the system, which is the whole of the cosmos, basically. The line 6 person has their success comes to them through unknown means, through anywhere in the matrix, So
my partner is a line 6. I've been curious about this one.
Yeah, they're a bit more mysterious, and it's a longer story, and I haven't got time to kind of tell it all, but I wanted to give a flavor of each. So for the line 1, if I was talking to you and you were in a business, I'd say, I hope you're your own boss. First thing. Or even if you were in a department, that you weren't under anyone else's control. You would have to have your own area where you could have, and I have done this in businesses at times. I've gone in and I've seen there's a line 1, and that woman or man does not have that freedom, and they are throttled, and they can't prosper, and that department can't prosper, and the business can't prosper, because that person is the wrong cog in the wrong hole. And they know it, and everyone around them knows it, but no one kind of says it or knows how to say it.
So interesting. I was
so these are all like examples of how you can understand, when you do these sequences, you go into this stuff. And of course, yours is about restraint. The beautiful gift of restraint is knowing when to say no. Like that's what it is. It's like your opportunities actually come when you say no to something. So when an opportunity comes to you and you go, you know what, this one doesn't quite feel right, because I don't want to compromise my values, and that person isn't completely aligned with my values. So I'm going to say thank you, but no. When you do that, What is hidden behind that event is magic. Like the next one that comes will be exactly perfect, but you had to kind of hold back. And sometimes it might be that they're the right person or the right thing, but it's not the right time. So you have to hold back and you just go, I'm not quite ready. I'll be ready in a month. Can you wait that long? And then if they go, it wasn't the right thing. And you go, well, okay, now I'm ready. And so restraint is like really powerful. And you can see that it's rooted in stillness. The city is stillness. And you can see that the shadow is stress. So if you kind of jump too quickly into things, and you're not restrained, you create stress. You create a situation that is full of stress. You create a relationship that has stress. You create something that is not going to last, something that won't survive, that won't nourish you or them, because you didn't hold back, because you compromised something. Do you know what I mean? So good one for you is like really consider the values, particularly of the people that you're connected with, and that their values align with you. I'll pause there in case you want to ask anything, because I've been talking a lot.
It's great. I mean, of course, I'm processing at the same time as like holding space. But yeah, I mean, I can absolutely see that. It's always been kind of a bit of a gift and a curse, I've thought about myself, because I have this incredible ability to always, if I'm chucked in at the deep end, I'm going to learn how to swim at some point, and I can learn to swim quite fast, actually. But the stress that comes with that can be very high. And again, when I was younger, we spoke about sort of the mood stuff. I mean, I was having a lot of anxiety issues when I was younger, a lot of panic attacks and things like that, partly to do with energy management. But I think it's this, it has been this this paradox of having this personality whereby it's boundless, right? We've spoken about that. It's like, I love an adventure. And also, so there's that energy, but at the same time, there's the restraint. And it's having both.
Yeah, and as you know, and as anyone who has been a success in the material world will tell you, it's all about timing. Anyone that's been very lucky or had good fortune in a business or a deal, it's because the timing was right. And you cannot kind of create that timing. That person, that deal comes along at that time, and you're in the perfect position, and you've got the money or whatever, everything lines up, and it's just beautiful. So it's and that timing is always rooted in the ability to kind of be still and wait for it to come to you, instead of rush out and try and make it happen. That's where the stillness is. It's like the mountain. The Chinese call that hexagram, keeping still mountain. So when you're in your stillness, you are literally generating capital. So anyway, shall I complete this? Shall I go on with the story? Or?
Please do. Yeah, I mean, I'm processing, and it's like, I want to become more still. Yeah, be still, and you will magnetize it, I guess, is the.
And it doesn't mean you don't act. It means you're waiting for the right action to move through you.
Oh, that's good.
That's all.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean when you're waiting that you're doing nothing. You could be very busy preparing.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Got it.
You come to the top, and it's like, this is how you things grow through our brand, and the brand is like, the brand is you. You are the brand, and the brand is a lovely word. It's coming from the Celtic, the Saxon brinnen, which means a sword. So in a way, your brand is your sword. And it's what people see of you. It's not what's hidden underneath. It's what's above. It's what they see. How do you express yourself cleanly, clearly, powerfully, humbly, you know, all those things with the right timing, with the right language, with the right tone, you know, in the right way. You know, getting your brand right is something that comes with being relaxed in your being, and it comes with experience, and it comes with some experimentation and some play. I mean, getting your brand is also like what you wear, how you look, how you walk, how you move, how you are with others, you know, how you are with yourself. I mean, that's your brand. It's like how, do you know what I mean? It's sort of, and so here you have a third line brand, and this is how you impact others. So if you have a first line brand, I kind of tell stories to share these. So in a way, like if you imagine you're an advertising company, like, and you want your brand to have the deepest effect, these are the different ways. So the first line brand is about security. It has to make people feel safe, right? So if that person makes you feel safe, you know, then you're going to have a successful transaction or relationship.
Yeah.
So for instance, that's why insurance, you know, insurance companies, like our first line thing in the world, they go like, okay, if you take this insurance, we're going to make you feel safe. You know, and there are lots of people that are in the business of making you feel safe. Right. But literally, you can read this at any level. Like you can read it at the level of emotions as well. Do you emotionally, you whatever you take into the world, your first line has to make people feel safe and secure and stable. Second line, it has to kind of illuminate them, inspire them, enrapture them, kind of, you know, it has to sort of, you know, it has to look so good that they're like, oh, wow. They go, wow. That's the second line. The third line is humor, right? Humor or pleasure. So the third line, what it has to do is it has to create pleasure. Humor is a great way of creating pleasure. So like if you're ever giving a talk in public, your talk will rise or fall on your jokes. You know, it like, and the jokes have to bubble up naturally and not be too studied. They just have to kind of come because they're part of your way. And that's just a little bit of the brand, so that you can put that everywhere in what you do, so that everything is done in a sort of lightness with a sense of humor behind it. And that's what kind of really then, because you're a rascal, right?
Yeah.
There's a twinkle in your eye. No, and you have to kind of give yourself that luxury, like, okay, I'm not going to take myself too seriously, and I may screw this up, and it's okay. You know, third lines are like that. Third lines are mischief makers, and they often make mistakes, but the mistakes turn out to be lucky. So it's about creating pleasurable experiences for people.
I love being a third line, by the way. I just want to say that.
It's perfect.
It's
perfect for you. You're a rascal.
I do like to have a laugh. That is
you
true.
Do. And the gene key here is you know, is like virtue. You know, it's about virtue. So the highest form, you know, of your brand is for people to see the quality of your virtue, to feel that you have a really noble intention. And even though you may make them laugh, underneath that is a really beautiful, noble intention. Whereas if you are locked in the shadow is division, right? If you didn't express that virtue, if you were so uncomfortable that you used, let's say you might use humor as a kind of way, as a defense in a way, because you feel uncomfortable, that humor wouldn't create that same level of success, you know, even, you know, and it wouldn't really come across as authentic because it's not coming from joy. So, and it's not only about humor, because it's just about that sort of joyousness. And so that's really part of what you're here to create, joy coupled with virtue, and guidance as the gift. It's like helping people find their guidance. You know, that's the greatest virtue, is not to kind of save someone, but to help them find their guidance. I mean, what's more prosperous than that?
Totally.
Helping someone else to help themselves. You know, that's such a selfless thing.
Can I just say at this point, hence why I've been called to create my Oracle certification training. I mean,
brilliant.
Hello, it's pretty much bang on guidance.
Yeah, exactly. And that's your service, really. And then what that does, all of that, initiative, growth, service, that selflessness is what creates the harvest of the pearl. And the pearl is like, it's sort of a, it's the style of your prosperity. It's the kind of reward that the cosmos, that the universe brings to you. And you have this beautiful gene key here called impeccability, and the shadow here is intellect, which is an interesting shadow, because it's like, don't try and overthink things in your life. Just.
Which I'd been told that a few years ago, Richard.
Yeah. I mean, don't try and overthink it, because it's going to come to you, through the stillness, through the remembering, through the revelations. It's just going to come out, and then it's going to bubble out through the laughter and through the virtue. And then what will occur is that you will have this impeccability. Impeccability is like the absolute perfect timing of everything. And you're a line 4 pearl. And again, there are 6 possibilities of prosperity. Line 1, by the way, is simplicity. So those are people that actually, for them, true prosperity is just about having a simple life. Line 2s are about recognition. True prosperity for them is about feeling soul recognition between them and others. Line 3s is about celebration. So they are people that they will be given lots of abundance so that they can share it in celebration, which is a wonderful way of sharing whatever it is, your abundance. Line 4 is charity. I'm charity. I'm line 4 as well. It's like actually I want to give something. My greatest joy is to give it away.
Yeah.
So as soon as it comes to me, like, I'm going to go and help this person over there. I'm going to go and help that group. I want to see the look on that person's face.
Totally. I love Christmas presents for that reason.
Exactly. Or giving away your products for free, or whatever it is. It's like, that's the great joy of a 4th line.
Yeah.
That impeccable, selfless charity. To be able to know exactly, when to use that, when that's come to you.
And I know that you're a line 4, Richard, because you have always been very generous with me, actually. And I you know what, I have and I'm sure I'm not the only one who's watching this. I have the Gene Keys book by my bed. This is absolute truth. Last night I finished rereading Gene Key number 57. 2 nights ago, well, it took me 2 nights to read it because it was quite a long chapter, Richard, 55. I was very much tuning into. But you gave me, when we met we had that lovely time where a few of us met up and we went to Chalice Well, and we sat in the lovely gardens there, and we did some tarot cards and various other things. And you gave me your copy, your first copy. I think you only had one of is it The Art of Contemplation?
I think it was 64 Ways, wasn't it?
Oh, the 64 Ways, sorry. You've also given me The Art of Contemplation, though.
Oh, yeah, sure.
When I met you, then when I came down to Totnes, you gave me The Art of Contemplation. So I've got both. And you just have this generous way. You only had like one copy, and you knew, because I was in my caravan at the time, and I was like, going through my transition, reading your work, and you knew that about me, and you knew that I didn't have a lot at that time. Yeah. And it was such a special gift.
Yeah. Well, it's nice that you got that first edition.
First edition.
Yeah. Only edition.
Yeah.
Well, I probably thought this is going to be more use to you than it is to me, since I've written it.
That's the 4th line, right?
Yeah,
that is the 4th line.
Well, it delights in giving away. And of course, what that does is it pushes out through those quantum pathways from the center there. It fuels vocation, culture, and brand. It just fuels the whole system. Whatever you have in there fuels the whole. And that's how we generate prosperity, through this quantum selfless giving rooted in our purpose, with having gone through this journey of cleaning our relationships. That's really, in a way, what we've just done is a whole Golden Path program, which takes, a year or something, or 9 months at minimum, to go through all of these. The journey with this profile takes a long time, but you can do it in segments. So you can do part 1 first, which is just the green ones, the 4 green spheres, and that kind of gets you in. And the whole journey, you can go down if you want, and maybe so we can show the listeners, like, click on begin my journey, and there you begin. Like, see, it says step 1, and it says watch this, read this, listen to this, and it gives you some resources. Step 1 is free, so you can get an idea of how the program works, and you can see the resources. There are transcripts and downloads and audios, and there's course material, which can be, you can either do, you get the material as part, as a kind of online text as part of the course, but you can also buy the books separately if you want it, for offline study. And if you go down below, there's an art of contemplation, an audio here that describes the art of contemplation, which is the technique at the core of this process, where you use the art of contemplation to untangle these gene keys and what they mean in your life. And contemplation takes time. And in a way, it's a little bit of a trick, because what contemplation does as an art is it slows you down. It may not slow down your life, but it slows down your kind of inner rhythm. And just by slowing down your inner rhythm, you start to generate more opportunities in life. You start to generate more peacefulness. You start to generate good stuff, because we're all in such a hurry. So anyway, and that's you can go and take a look at that, and then if you click the green there, that takes you through to, then you'd be ready to begin the course, and it would take you to the shop, and there's part 1, and part 1 would take you through the first 10 steps, and is a really great journey. So I recommend it to anyone, and also while we're on the website, you don't have to click around, but there's a lot if you click on resources at the top, if you're interested in gene keys, there's a lot of free resources that you can just click on any of these. This is like a way of exploring the synthesis of the gene keys.
Oh wow,
click on anything here, and it's full of resources. Most of them are free. But there's a lot when you click on
as well, Richard. It's so stunning, your brand.
So I'm still filling up the synthesis. That's why half of those circles are filled, and there's still more to come. But there's a lot in there.
I get excited. I want the dragonfly. I love the multi-dimensional dragonfly. Yeah,
I know. So it's sort of it's a playful exploration, but if I were a newcomer, I would begin with what we just did, the activation sequence, part 1 of the Golden Path. Get your profile, have a look at it, play with it, listen to the audio, have a sense of whether you think this is for you, and if it is, then take a plunge.
Dive in.
And
yeah.
So I hope that was helpful for you. Anyway, if you've got any questions, I'm really happy to answer
Very
them.
helpful. I mean, Richard, do I have any questions? I mean, so many, but I'm trying. Don't want to sort of be too selfish, really, with the viewers. Let me see if I can ask a question that is expansive for all, because many people also will know you. Who are
you can, if you want to switch the website off now, we could come back to just like
okay. Here's a question. So is it even a question you can answer? My question is, I'm sure you do have an answer. Is there any one particular sphere that people should really contemplate in terms of the topic of what we're talking about, the spirit of abundance? Is there if there was one sphere, that would catalyze everything, which one would it be?
Well, the interesting thing about those is the reason it's called a hologenetic profile is because it's like a hologram. And that means a hologram is where if you look in any particular area, you see the whole repeated in that area. So you just go on, wherever you look, you see the same pattern again and again and again.
Mm-hmm.
Like the cosmos is like that, the universe is like that. And so the profile is a kind of map of your inner being. Wherever you place your attention, then awareness begins to open up. So actually, there's two potential answers. One is you can intuitively choose any sphere you feel drawn to,
mm-hmm.
and put your attention on that gene key, and what it means, and allow that intuitive choice to kind of do its magic.
Mm-hmm.
The other potential one I would say is look at the sphere of the pearl, which is that one we looked at in the middle. And just really because that it's interesting, because I never usually advise people to do that, because I always say forget about the pearl, because it's like a harvest. It comes when it comes, and no amount of you thinking about it will help it come.
Mm-hmm.
But what's interesting is those lines, those 6 possible lines, because they give you a clue as to what prosperity looks like for your soul, for this life.
Mm-hmm.
So as I said, if it was a line 1, it would be simplicity. And you may have a very complicated life. And if you just take that word and you go, oh, wow, how am I going to get from here to there? Just that as a contemplation is a lot. If you have a line 2 and it's recognition, it's like, it's all about people for you. Your whole life success is about people.
Mm-hmm.
3 is celebration. It's about joy. It's about you're here to enjoy life and share that enjoyment. Mm-hmm. So how it doesn't tell you how to do it, but it gives you it to think about. And that can be quite a powerful place to begin. And then as you and I have charity, so we really consider that. And then 5 and 6 have their stories as well, which you can get when you look at it and explore them. But what those lines give us is they give us, in a way, the sort of story of our selflessness. Mm-hmm. Like how, because your highest prosperity is going to come through your selflessness. So they're the flavor of your selflessness. And that can be a really beautiful, powerful thing to contemplate in your life. Just that. Mm-hmm. Just that can change your life. Mm-hmm. Because you can start looking around and going, well, where am I not being selfless? Where am I being selfish? And you don't have to judge yourself about it. Just like, where am I losing energy? Because I'm too worried or concerned or tight or restricted or controlling and, or stressful. Those are all areas where you're probably you haven't found that sense of selflessness, service to the whole. So in a way that pearl sphere has this question, what I call the Grail question, which is, what is the highest service I am here to offer to the whole? Mm-hmm. That's a life's question. Mm-hmm. Really great question.
Mm-hmm. That's a really great question. Yeah, I've written it down. Something that I would like to talk to you about, and it's such a sort of prevalent topic in the world, actually. But I do see it, and I'm sure you see it in the spiritual community in particular. So I could dress this up in a better way, but there's a lot of still very broke people, right? Financially, like struggling people in the world, and also in the spiritual community. And, I speak to a lot of people in the spiritual community. I know that you speak to lots and lots of people. And often when I ask them, like, what is the main thing that if you could change something, or if you could transform something, or if it's in your way at the moment, what would that be? And they say, well, it's money. Money is, we live in this culture which demands it. And, I have these spiritual beliefs, and I don't necessarily want to make money in the world the way that I see other people make money. but I don't know what to, like, I don't know how to make money in a different way, that's in keeping with my values, my morals, all of those things. What do you say on this topic? And how can we truly activate our abundance, which all the spiritual teachers, the great masters, incredible channels tell us that there's only unlimited abundance. So we hear that, and as you know, I live very close to Glastonbury, not far down the road at all. Doesn't have a bank anymore, which I understand why, but it's also it's in poverty. Like, it is a place in poverty, but it's the most spiritual place in the UK and in a lot of the world. How can we bridge the two, and can we?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think I have a really heretical answer for it that people probably don't want to hear, but you'll probably enjoy it.
Go on. Yeah, I'm enjoying it already.
that I said it already, it's the wrong question. You're asking the wrong question. It's not it's not money that you need. It is not money that you need. There's something beneath that you haven't got to. The money's like on the surface. It's like it controls the quality of our life on the surface, but not the quality of our life on the inside.
No.
Doesn't touch our spiritual heart, our virtue. Can't touch or have anything to do with the purity of our being. So there's a fear underneath that kind of sense of lack, that poverty. There's some poverty consciousness, and you have to kind of have the courage to look deeper than that kind of question that you're asking and go, well, what's underneath that question? What am I actually avoiding in asking that question? Because there's something inside that is in the way of it, and it's the question itself that needs to be penetrated. And I know that that's difficult to hear, but the real question is, as I said, the real question is not how can I have more for me, it's how can I give more to the world. If you start from there, it's a very different journey. But you have to, it looks like there's more risk. It's like Rumi, the great mystic poet, saying, he talks about love as gambling. You gamble yourself away. Gambling myself away is beyond any spiritual path. And that's what love does. Love just gambles itself away all the time and is willing to just give away whatever it has. So if you come to anything with that open heart, that level of open heart, that healed heart, and that's why I say you have to go through this relationship journey. You have to. And most people are not. And they think they have, but they haven't. Not in depth. And, but when you have, that's when the heart opens. And that's when, you start to generate abundance of whatever form that takes. And it probably won't take the form you think.
Yeah.
It'll probably take, it'll take whatever form it wants to, but you won't care by then, because you'll be generating love. And so it is it may seem like a romantic answer, but actually, in my heart of hearts, I know that that's the true answer, because I learned it through the Gene Keys. I didn't know that myself. I didn't realize, and then you just have to keep asking that question: how can I be of the greatest service? How can I be of the greatest service? And the answer can be surprising sometimes, but you can instantly have an answer from your heart, and the heart will say, well, I tell you what, go and do this. Oh, really? Okay. Go and see that person. Because the heart just tells you what you need to do.
Isn't it also the life's work? sphere? I mean, like, I'm looking at you, and I would imagine, because I know you've got illumination in your life's work, and I'm looking at you and I'm thinking, well, this is his incredible service to the world, to illuminate, to help people to see more deeply themselves. Isn't it? Or is that too linear, like, to think in that way?
You could look like that. It is a bit linear, but because there's stuff underneath that as well. You know, there's the work that you're here to do, but then there's the kind of core purpose underneath that. The core purpose is more about being. You know, and when people are looking for purpose, they're often asking, like, well, what should I do? And again, the real question is, who should you be? You know, who should you be while you're here? Because then if you are grounded in your being and your highest being, the doing doesn't matter. The doing can change. The doing probably will change. You might have a job, you might not have a job. You might never have a job. You know, but you could be a beggar. But the being is like, that's why you're here, to radiate something out to whoever comes your way. And you might also be a multimillionaire. It's whatever's in your dharma, whatever is, but that is something you have to unlock from the inside out, not from the outside in. Yeah. So anyway, I hope that kind of answers that big question.
It's a huge question. Yeah. And there's no, you know, this is a question that it challenges everybody, but, you know, that's why I wanted to create this retreat, so that we could explore this. And even people who are watching who have a lot, you know, there's still so much more, right, of everything within us to access the spirit of abundance. I mean, there's no limits with that, right?
Exactly. Well, I'm doing a I'm releasing a part 4 to the Golden Path in the end of this year, and it's a kind of quantum expression of the pearl. It's called the Star Pearl, and it's the final one. I'm not doing any more after that. But it's different, because what it does is it shows you, it's very different from the other sequences, and it kind of comes at the end of the journey in a way. But what it does is it gives you a kind of a vision of what prosperity is by analyzing your life, and it shows you how every aspect of your life is bound up in this question of prosperity. So if, for instance, you analyze these different spheres of your life, and you actually give yourself a mark, a grade, an assessment out of 10 with points. So you might be like, let's say in the sphere of there are some additional spheres, but let's say in the sphere of vocation, you give yourself a 5.2, right? And in the sphere of, there's another one called creativity, you give yourself a 3.1. Right, and there's all kinds of things like why you've done that, because you have to understand what the sphere is relating to as well in your life, and then you grade your life, and then all those points are kind of harmonized in the middle in the pearl and averaged out, and you get a kind of overall prosperity score in the pearl. So what it does is it shows you how your life's prosperity is created through all those areas, right? And there are always areas where there's weakness. So it might be that, as you said, that in the sphere of stability, which is one at the bottom, that you have literally no assets, no material assets at all, and so you don't feel stable. So that is then, so if you give yourself a 3.1, let's say, then that is where you go to work, you know, and there's things you can actually do. There are steps you can take to like help yourself feel more stable. But what has happened, what I've learned through doing this Star Pearl process, because I've modeled it with a group for about a year of about 50 people, and we all worked on it, and there were people chosen from diverse fields, some kind of new age types, some non-new age types, some Gene Keys people, some non-Gene Keys.
I know one of them, actually.
Oh, do you? Who's that?
Yeah. Well, Hazel Newton.
Oh yeah, was Hazel on that journey? She may have been, I can't remember now who was on it.
I think she was.
And anyway, so what we found was that people's scores over like a year went up generally, and as the scores went up, their kind of abundance increased. And what was interesting to me was that once people started to feel abundant, and once people started to feel stable and safe, then they began to create, it began to manifest around them, or they were just clearer about what they needed to do. Right. So again, I go back to what I said before. The answer comes from the inside out, not from the outside in. But that doesn't mean to say you can't kind of use a tool on the outside like Gene Keys or Star Pearl to help you feel more stable, to help you feel more full, to help you address your relationship kind of hidden agendas, because that's what all these things are for, right? And that's what Gene Keys, I think, has appeared in the world for. To help people find that inner kind of coherence, and then they begin to manifest it externally. Mm-hmm. But there's a spiritual law, isn't there? Which we all know, which is that the material follows the spiritual. So the outer kind of follows the inner, but it takes time. Because you can have a lovely thought, but for that thought to manifest into the material realm, take a long time, and you have to go on thinking it, and then you actually have to kind of bring it down the layers. It has to fill you up, and then it has to become an action, and then it lands. So the material world takes longer, which is why people with a lot of good, nice thinking and thoughts, and good impressions and good affirmations, doesn't cut it, unless it's done in that way where it brings it down, steps it down into the material world as well.
And the action is taken, the physical.
Yeah.
How can people pick up with you then on their journey? So first thing that I would recommend is that they download their profile. So we've shown that.
Yeah.
What have you got coming up, or what would?
Well, I'd say to people, just we're a really nice community. Gene Keys, global community. Gene Keys has been translated into loads of languages. There's a really nice kind of global feel. People come together, they explore it with each other in different ways. You meet cool people, you meet them online, might meet them at a workshop or a retreat or something. I would say come check out the website, and also I'm busy on YouTube at the moment. And so I'd definitely say come to Gene Keys YouTube, where I'm putting out stuff every week, all time, and I'm going to be doing more profiles live on YouTube soon. This month, actually, I'm going to be doing. So actually, if you're listening to this, get on this month. Free. YouTube's free, right? You'll see me doing more of what I did today, but in a sort of simpler way, but with kind of random strangers.
Right. And they might be one of them.
Yeah, you could be one of them. It's going to be a lottery, so just put your name down. I don't do readings. I should probably say that. It's like what I'm doing with you, I don't do, because Gene Keys is not really designed like that. I designed it so you can find someone in the Gene Keys community who'll give you a really good set of readings. But I personally don't do them. And other than like this, because I created the program so that you do it yourself. Yeah. You do your own reading, you figure it out. It's a step-by-step process. So yeah, come along, sign up to YouTube, hit that thing that says subscribe to YouTube. It doesn't send you, all it does is send you a kind of thing every time I release a Gene Keys video.
Yeah.
And then you'll stay in tune, because those videos will keep you in tune. And I've also got a newsletter and stuff like that. So, my events page kind of tells you what I'm up to. There's not much on it at the moment because I'm in a big development phase. But I'm developing for the next year all kinds of things for the future. And then I'll be on the road again probably the following year, 2020. I think we're having a big Gene Keys gathering in Bulgaria.
Oh, I've been hearing about this. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
When is that?
Well, we've put it down for the summer of 2021. A big global gathering.
Great.
So that should be a lot of fun. Bulgaria is a beautiful place, and
Yeah, never been.
yeah.
Okay.
And I'll be doing stuff. I mean, I do stuff from time to time. Every now and again, I do stuff in the UK. So
Yeah, absolutely. I've been to every now and again your stuff that you do in the
so
UK.
if you just have to, I'm quite spontaneous. Like I
Yeah.
don't do a lot of events, as you know, but sometimes, like someone recently said, "Can I set something up for you in London?" And I said, "Yeah, okay." It sort of depends on if it feels right, and they can happen quite quickly. So
We
if you're
should
in the
do
UK,
something in the
I'd
future.
totally love to.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody needs to come and visit our magical land here, don't they? In the UK.
Yeah, in the southwest.
It's incredible, isn't it, where
Yeah,
we live?
yeah.
And I mean, last year I was back and forth to the States all the time. And I mean, I loved it, and I, absolutely loved the people and my whole trip. But I have to say, I loved coming back to the UK and the magic here, the history, the land, the culture. It's well, it feels like home to me, and yeah, I think everybody should come to the southwest. Go to Glastonbury at least once in your life. It's an interesting place.
Absolutely. It's a magical place.
It's very magical. Yeah. Yeah, we are blessed to live here. And we have been blessed to have you today. Thank you, Richard. Thank you for all you bring always to us
Big
all.
pleasure.
And yeah, thank you for the great honor of looking at my profile as well.
It was fun.
I still pinch myself, when I was in the caravan reading your book, and here I am. I mean,
Well, you're doing it. You're living it. I can see that you are actually fulfilling that profile.
Thank you. That's, Richard Rudd, and it's on recording, says that I'm going to pin that up and look at that. When the entropy is threatening, I'm going to look at that, and that will give me joy.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you for everything that you brought, and thank you to the viewers for coming on this journey with us as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
And definitely recommend that if you don't already have your profile. I mean, it's highly, highly, highly valuable. I mean, I would say it was essential. I have revelation in my vocation, so I mean, to me, it is essential. And life is just so much better when you have a spiritual roadmap to refer to, and it's an incredible system. So
GeneKeys.com.
GeneKeys.com, free profile. Check out
Have a play.
YouTube, and let's all activate the spirit of abundance and our prosperity and change the world. Yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Any last words, Richard?
Just lots of love to everyone watching this, whatever you're in, and happy Halloween if you're watching this as it goes live. Have a lovely time out there. Stay kind of centered, amidst the crazy energies, but have a lovely time. Yeah, and love from me.
Thank you.